Prem Chauhan was struggling. As a Hindi literature teacher in a small Harayan village, his salary barely covered his family's financial needs. In 2021, he finally secured a corporate position at a company in Gurgaon. He expected to commute from his village on weekends. However, shortly after he joined, the company sent him to Hyderabad for a training program alongside 3 colleagues, Aditi, Dev, and Shubham. Prem maintained his focus through daily prayer. He was a devoted follower of Lord Hanuman, regularly chanting the Chalisa and visiting temples to keep a sense of spiritual protection around himself. While exploring the Hyderabad markets, Aditi bought a box of rasgullas. When she brought those sweets into Prem's hotel room later that night, he felt an immediate, heavy wave of negativity. His intuition warned him that something was wrong with that specific box. Prem told the group to leave the sweets alone until the morning. His colleagues ignored the warning, attributing his reaction to the flight, and ate the rasgullas anyway. Prem's reaction was more than a bad feeling. The heavy atmosphere in the room signaled that an opportunistic entity from the market had followed them, using the sweets as an anchor to enter their personal space. After 10 days, the company moved the group and their manager, Vineet, to a service apartment in Goa. At exactly 1:45 a.m. on his first night there, Prem woke to the sound of howling dogs. From his balcony, he saw a man standing under a tree in a nearby playground. The figure had a charred face and glowing red eyes, staring directly at Prem's room. The disturbances soon became localized. Dev claimed that when he looked through the keyhole of Aditi's bedroom door, he saw her completely naked, walking upside down along the walls. When Prem looked through the same keyhole immediately afterward, he saw nothing unusual. Aditi was simply lying in her bed, fast asleep. The discrepancies continued every night. At precisely 1:45 a.m., violent banging echoed from Aditi's room, followed by a rotting stench that filled the apartment hallways. The threat had shifted from a lingering feeling in Hyderabad to an aggressive physical manifestation in Goa. Based on the noises and the smells, the group concluded that Aditi was the focus of the haunting. Prem and the manager eventually consulted a local Baba. He informed them that their assumptions about Aditi were wrong. It was Dev who had been possessed by the entity. The entity was a jinn that had latched onto them at the sweet shop in Hyderabad. While it had initially targeted Aditi, it was blocked by a sacred temple thread tied around her wrist. It had moved to Dev instead, finding him unprotected. The possession forced Dev out of the apartment every night. While the others were in their rooms, the jinn was taking control of his body and leading him into a nearby graveyard to hunt and eat live birds. The Baba performed a ritual in that graveyard to draw the entity out. As the mantras began at 1:45 a.m., Dev's body physically transformed, taking on the charred appearance of the burnt-faced entity Prem had seen from his balcony. The jinn tried to body hop, first toward Shubham and then toward Prem. Prem's continuous chanting of Hanuman's name acted as a barrier, forcing the jinn back until the Baba could trap it through a ritual sacrifice. The jinn was a parasite that exploited vulnerabilities in the group. Once its presence was identified and met with specific spiritual defenses, it was easily removed. With the jinn banished and Dev returned to normal, the group went back to work. They believed the disturbances were over. This sense of security lasted until a power outage hit their office late one night. In the faint light from the street below, they saw 2 human-like shadows hanging outside the second-story windows. That same night at 1:30 a.m., every person in the service apartment heard a simultaneous, violent knock on their individual bedroom doors. Aditi's condition then deteriorated rapidly. She developed a severe fever, and when Prem tried to approach her, she growled in a voice that didn't belong to her, warning him to stay away, while recoiling from the sacred bracelet on his wrist. Banishing the jinn hadn't cleared the apartment. Aditi's sudden physical revulsion to Prem's prayers indicated that a second, distinct evil had been present all along, and it was now fully in control. Frantic, the group drove Aditi toward Mahandipur Balaji Dham. This temple is specifically known for handling the most severe and unbreakable cases of possession. The entity fought back during the drive. Aditi stared unblinkingly at Prem, promising he wouldn't survive the journey. Moments later, their car nearly collided with a speeding truck, in an incident Prem believes was an attempt on their lives. Once inside the temple's protective circle, the entity was finally subdued. The priests there performed an exorcism and identified the source of the attack. This wasn't a chance encounter. This was a lethal curse, commissioned by her own stepmother, who was driven by a deep jealousy of Aditi's place in the family. Aditi survived the exorcism and eventually moved on to a happy life. However, the curse left a permanent mark, as the intensity of the ritual had destroyed one of her kidneys. While entities in a graveyard are a terrifying threat, the most calculated dangers can come from a family member. In Aditi's case, the most lethal monster was the person willing to use black magic to settle a household grudge.